In trucking, every minute counts. That's why QuickQ delivers smart, secure payment solutions designed to keep your fleet moving. From our innovative SmartQ RFID system that stops fraud at the pump, to our factoring company fuel card programs that help fleets get fast, reliable access to funds and fuel discounts, QuickQ simplifies your payments and keeps your cash flowing. And it all comes backed by customer service that's second to none. Make it simple, make it secure, make it QuickQ. Visit quickq.com to learn more.
Welcome to Loaded and Rolling. I'm Thomas Wasson, the special edition. I am out and about in Austin, Texas, this time at the Motive Vision 2025 event. Vision25, for those of you not paying attention. And we're talking about safety. Super excited to be catching back up with Gary Johnson, Head of Safety and Compliance at Motive. They have been cooking up some really cool stuff. And Gary, it is a pleasure to get to reconnect again.
Yes, thank you very much. This is exciting and welcome. It's a great time here at Vision25, so we appreciate you joining us and being a part of this.
And one of the fun things I liked was you all released some new AI tools. That was one of the big themes. Last year, it was like, are you yawning? This year, I have a AI assistant coach who can actually help the drivers, not yell at them. They haven't taught them yet.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, in the realm of fleet safety and compliance, it's kind of a big deal.
It's a huge deal, and I'm glad you brought it up. This really emphasizes the evolution of what we're seeing with technology, but especially just the AI, artificial intelligence, and how really we can provide these innovative solutions to further help our partners when it comes to, helping them operate and within their physical economy. So with the release of this artificial intelligence, especially the coach, it just brings another layer to how we can provide that assistance. So what I mean about that layer, now not only will the technology sort of do the inside cab coaching, this will bring another layer to another assistant when it comes to coaching or mentoring that driver. And then, of course, if the behavior continues, it just will then let it, go to the one-on-one or the face-to-face type process. So it is super exciting. It's very, innovative. And obviously, I can make myself look better or even taller if I want to. But it really is exciting. And also the emphasis that you saw was the importance of across all solutions. It's that one single platform. You and I both know, obviously, that when it comes to how busy the supervisors or fleet managers are, the more systems they got to go into, the probability they're just not going to do it. Yeah. So now, not only giving them the ability to have this one platform, but the assistance of an AI to help with everything from running reports to the data, the analytics, or the coaching aspect. It just opens the door. So super excited, and so excited that everybody got to see what is being released by Motive.
So I can theoretically have a version of myself, and I can become an AI coach, and then you just record it, and it takes the voice, and through the power of generative AI, I can now talk to my fleet.
Absolutely. And that is what is super exciting about the entire release of this. The coaching portion of this is that you can, pick an avatar. By the way, I had to ask somebody what an avatar was, but it just shows you my age. But anyway, or you can gradually grow into even down to the level of an individual or them believing that they're talking to you, which they are, because you are controlling all the coaching narrative. So it's super big. It's super exciting.
And one of the big things with fleets, especially on the compliance and safety side, is making sure everyone has their documents. They have to have, one of the cool things with the AI now is you have the targeted ability to, instead of just sending a fleet-wide message, you can pick individuals. Talk about some of that development, because I think a lot of folks don't understand that it feels like the easy part sometimes is you're hauling things, but everything that leads up to you hauling things on the compliance side is the real fight.
It is, from someone that's been in the industry coming up on 40 years and dealing with the documentation side or the compliance side, that it is heavily regulated in this industry. And with really all the segments, if you really think about who we support and service, So there's a lot of regulatory or, even local, state, or federal guidance on that. So how do you manage that? And that's been the challenge. So, of course, with our release and the use of the assistance of AI, again, we make it simple. We put it all in one area. It is now to the level where the notifications are preemptive. So no longer is Gary going to be out on the road, get pulled over, and, oh, by the way, my license is expired. It all is in one place. It's all there, and it's going to be easy for those driver managers or management or drivers themselves to really now have control of their compliance. Super exciting.
And one of the cool things was coming to these events, their user conferences, the breadth of transportation. Because, you think just trucking, there's people in construction, there's people, yeah. I swear I talked to a bro at Halliburton or in the Permian Basin. When we're thinking of these kind of things, like how Motive's kind of unique. They got a telematics, they got a dash cam, they've got a fuel card, they have this compliance suite. Based on your experience, did it start as one thing, and then because of user recommendation, it's kind of like, man, Absolutely. I could really use this,
That's exactly, and that's what is so exciting about Motive. I have obviously been in the industry when technology wasn't there. Yeah. That's how far back I'm going. And now to the evolution of where we are with technology, it's exciting. You go to any conference and you'll see it's all technology. But the key is, it's got to be the right solution to provide those partners of ours. Yeah. How do you learn? How do you know what that is? It's just like our user conference, Vision25. It's actually getting and talking to each and every individual of all segments and then finding out what's important to them. And that's the beautiful thing of our founder, CEO, Schwabe. When he started, he went out to the local truck stops and talked to drivers, asked them, what is the need? What is there that we can provide? Yeah. And I tell you, over 10 years, 11, 12 years now later, here we are, and we're still doing the same thing, talking, listening, and it really just grows off of that. We started as Keep Trucking, and we have grown into and expanded to Motive, and the reason why is because we're across all the segments, and each one of those segments brings an excitement. It also brings different solutions, but that's why we're, here at Motive, we are so, open, and we really do listen to each segment, and we're flexible. Yeah, we're flexible enough to actually provide that solution and continue that partnership.
And one of the cool ones I liked was part of the generative AI was it could detect weather. Yeah. So it used to be you'd all get together in a meeting. You'd say, this area of the country is screwed. I'm just going to send a fleet-wide message. You are over here. But now with the technology, you're able to do targeted ones. And the AI itself is like, I see you within this area. So, is that one of the big challenges, I guess, is when you're having these conferences and events, there are a lot of folks just not, half the battle is just like, look at all this cool new stuff. And every year, like last year, it was like, can I yawn? This year, it's like, I can tell if you're smoking.
Absolutely. Smoking, the fatigue factors, because there's behaviors behind each fatigue event. It gets down to more than just the yawn, but it's the growth of that. And now, like you mentioned, especially with the weather detection, instead of just putting that, big wide alert out at, hey, watch for weather, now you can really pinpoint of not only each and individual driver that is out in that area, but those that are going into the area. And you can now be very selective with AI to notify those individual drivers to say, hey, be aware, or especially with high winds or, severe weather, that they should really shut down or take protection. So it's because of that, it really has been very prescriptive in the way that we do things, but also not so you're just throwing, a big wide message out. But that's how exciting it is, as well as just how detailed and prescriptive we can get these solutions down to the individual. It's not a one-size-fits-all. We found that. But because it's not a one-size-fits-all, that's what's good.
Hey, you'll be interviewed. Took my shot. That's why we shoot them live, folks. No. So, like, speaking of which, you should have seen Manifest here, by the way. This is behind
crazy.
the scenes now. Yeah,
Crazy.
Next time you come, we'll put you to work as a blocker. You can just like push people away. I like the fact that when you're looking at the amounts of this fatigue index, this is really cool. It used to be you would get alerts or you would get people calling in saying your driver sucks.
Yeah.
And in the past, you basically were like, I don't know what Earl was up to. But now with the technology, we can actually tell with lane departure. Dive into some of that because it's really, I feel like it's been 3 years. We went from like reactive to now it's like extremely proactive. The technology, it can even tell me if I have sleep apnea at this point.
Oh, I tell you, you're spot on when you talk about how we in safety for so many years had to wait for an event in order to get the analysis and then try to be reactive to that process. The technology of today and the solutions and what we offer and especially provide our partners is to the level where it is so far proactive, predictive, even to the sense of really watching the behaviors and how those behaviors are interacting with other behaviors, because that's really what fatigue does. It really is a combination of multiple issues that then ends up at that event, meaning fall asleep, you hit something. So because of that, we really have to dig deep into what are the key factors of, in this case, fatigue. Yeah. And that could be everything from not maintaining the lane to yawning to eye droop, eye close. I mean, it gets to all these different detections. And then we'll send an in-cab alert of, a warning. And then, of course, notifying the coach to say, hey, Gary needs a contact because there might be a potential issue. So it really is about being proactive, but this all is nothing if we don't have accuracy and the speed nor which to do that. You know exactly that if we start throwing out a lot of false positives, the drivers are just going to tune it out. And that's what we can't have. We got to have factual, actual, real detection, quick detection, so that behavior is addressed. In this case, fatigue. Fatigue is a really critical issue across the industry. It doesn't matter what you're driving, because at the end of the day, I mean, even time change has a big impact. So we're excited about it. As you can tell, we really are detailed, but it's all about being proactive. No more reaction.
And one of the last things I'm thinking of as well is that when you're having these conversations, it used to be in the past, drivers would say, well, you don't know what's going on. You're not driving. You don't understand. You're not a real CDL wheel holder. And then now with the technology, you almost get this little helper where it's like, look, I get it, but I can see you're like obviously swerving. I'm sending these. Is that changing kind of the dynamic and the relationship between these managers and drivers where you get this kind of buffer, good cop, bad cop that helps you as you're trying to develop them? And, it kind of gives you a little bit more breathing space versus me just getting on to Gary saying, I caught you drowsy that one time,
I tell you, the opening evening of our conference, of course, we had the coach that joined us on the stage. And he really emphasized how important, game film and data is. And I think when you talk about the relationship between driver, manager, driver, owner, it doesn't matter. It really has changed the approach that this is more about a professional athlete, or what do we call our drivers? Professional drivers. Yeah. And it's really about more so of giving them the performance data to individually improve themselves and become that ultimate athlete, or in this case, the ultimate professional driver. It's because of that approach, that's where you see, I think, it's no more safety cop. Yeah. It's more about, hey, how can we improve Gary to make sure that he's at his top performance? And that's what's exciting about how we approach this solution.
And if folks want to learn more about Motive, check out the information. What's the best way to find out?
GoMotive.com. Very simple. GoMotive.com, and they can find all the details there. You can also reach out through the telephone number, and we're always there and happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Gary, really appreciate your time.
We'll catch up again
soon. Thank you.
I hope so.
That's a wrap for this short segment, but keep an eye out. A lot more great content coming your way. Welcome to Loaded and Rolling. I'm Thomas Watson. We're here at Vision25 in Austin, Texas. It is Motive's second year, and I've got the folks from Western Express. We're talking about safety and compliance and how technology is keeping fleets safe. And so for folks who don't know, tell us a little bit about Western Express. Give everyone an intro. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, Western Express is a 3,600 truck company. We're a national brand, so we do flatbed and dry van. We'll truck anywhere in the lower 48, so you'll see our trucks anywhere from California, New York, Florida, Texas, all over the country.
And so tell us about, especially in the role of safety and compliance, I think a lot of people don't understand that half the battle is getting all the stuff before you even haul your first load, between documents, coaching, events. When you're looking at your experience in the industry, what are some of the biggest changes? Because there's been a lot of releases in AI and everything, and it feels like maybe jobs are getting a little bit easier now.
Yeah, I think the biggest change is the technology that's come into the truck, right? It kind of started with the truck, and now it's starting to get into that back office, more AI. You would think it would make everything easier. What I think the biggest challenge is you can't just get the data and then not do anything with it, right? So you have to make sure that you're setting up a plan. Okay, now you have all this great information. How do you put that into action to actually make an impact on the road?
So it's one of those big things where it's almost like you have to approach it like a game plan for coaching and stuff. And so in the past, it was very reactive. Now you get to be proactive. How do you become, what's the best proactive approach? Because now you have all of these tools at your fingertips.
I think the biggest thing is understanding your fleet and where your biggest opportunities are, right? For us, it was deciding what do we feel like the most behaviors are that we have an opportunity to improve that'll then reduce whether it's violations or accidents and incidents. What opportunity do we have and how big of an impact can we make with that? And then prioritizing those opportunities and executing them.
For large truckload carriers, you have thousands of trucks on the road. What's the low-hanging fruit when we're thinking of, I want to start tweaking this first? Is there anything that for folks who don't know and who are not familiar with the industry, what's the biggest thing that you really want to kind of change that moves the needle at first before you can really start refining folks?
Well, I think just in general, the biggest thing is helping drivers understand that we're using these things as coaching tools, not necessarily like you look at some of the maybe the prior ways to approach safety, and it was almost like a 3-check system, right? Yeah. You're going to check 1 is your verbal warning, check 2 is a written warning, and then check 3, you're getting terminated. And I don't think that that's how we need to approach it. The way that we need to approach things is much more of a coaching mindset where we're trying to make the driver better or whoever it is better through that data. So I think that's the biggest thing is making sure that the driver understands the why behind, the camera in the truck or anything else that you're doing there. And then also making sure that they understand kind of what that approach is going to be and what the expectation is.
And having open deck and other modes, it has to be more important because if you've got a guy outside strapping, tarping, binding, chain, safety's got to be much more important. Where's your PPE? Where's your vest? So is that one of the cool things now where you actually get to be in the cab and say, look, this isn't personal, but buddy, I don't see a hard hat.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that is really big with our customers, right? And it helps us a lot to be able to manage it on the front end. There have been other things you could do about messaging drivers, right? Hey, make sure you're wearing your hard hat. But as far as being able to proactively manage it's much more difficult, right, before anything like an AI camera. So certainly a big help there, making sure that you can have those conversations and then manage that driver to meet the expectation.
Does it make it easier? When I used to manage drivers, the problem they'd say is, well, you don't understand. You're not a CDL holder. You don't know what goes on. With this technology and having things like now there's an AI coach that's coming up. Does it add that third layer to where you can give that critique, but it's also not like, I don't know what we're talking about. Here's this video. You see you done goofed and then move from there. Talk about how that kind of changes the paradigm.
Yeah, the video is always great. I think it's always good for the driver to see their own behavior and how it impacts them. And the more engagement that you can push, especially with the Motive app or the scorecards, right, that they have coming out, the more engagement you can push on that, and the more that you can get the driver really wanting to almost gamify that, where they want to have the highest score, right, or the best score in the fleet. The more you get them involved, the better you're going to see that coaching go. And it's also different depending on the driver. We have drivers that have driven for, 30, 40 years, have millions of miles, that's a different conversation from a driver who's fresh out of truck driving school. Now you've gone through training, you got your own truck, that's great. Now we have to make sure that we're kind of upholding that standard. So those are different conversations, right? With a driver that's got that much experience, I may not have the approach of, hey, I know how to do this better than you, right? Because I probably don't. As somebody who's driven millions and millions of miles is going to know how that truck handles way better than I do, right? So with them, getting the video behavior and just saying, hey, this is what we see. Can you take a look? You know the risks just as well as I do. Like, the whole purpose of this is to make you better. Can you take a look at this? And then each week, we're just going to check your score. We're going to have a conversation and then see how it goes from there. Yeah. And we've seen some really big impacts, even with our veteran drivers, from doing that.
So it's like the football equivalent of watching your film, your game film, basically.
Yeah, absolutely, right? They're able to see kind of their behavior, the things that impact their scores. And one of the things that we've done is also incentivize that, right? So there's incentives tied to that score. So if the driver has, an excellent score in Motive, that incentivizes them to, continue to get into the app, continue to see what behaviors are there. And then it also, like, if something happens and let's say a driver cuts them off and it shows up as a hard break, they're pretty quick to get on there and say, like, hey, this is, this is something I couldn't help or whatever. So it's both really good from driving the behavior that you want to see behind the wheel, and then also getting the feedback from the driver.
Because it reminds me of the old safety bonuses, and it used to be you get like 2 or 3 cents per mile as long as you had clean stuff, no reportable accidents. But it never felt like as a fleet that I'm getting the value out of it. And now with the technology, I can have this scorecard and actually give a bonus, and there's more skin in the game.
Yeah, you think about it before, like you said, reactive, right? You have all the data of things that have already happened. Either you got a clean inspection or you didn't have an accident, right? That's the data that, hey, this month has already passed. There were no accidents. What you're doing with that Motive data is this is the behavior that's going on right now in the cab. This is what we want to see, and this is the behavior we want to continue to push. And so when you get them engaged with that, especially incentivizing them, it makes them really want to do better and really pay attention to the things that impact that score.
And being a large fleet, do you guys do the trainer-student upgrades behind the wheel hours and you get on the road when they come, or do they have normally first seat as soon as they're in? Because I'm assuming you can use that, like at US Express, you'd have BTW hours, you'd have upwards of at least a few weeks on the road. Can that be something where if you're vetting new drivers, you can now provide them with the feedback, and you can also check how the trainers are doing? So maybe you found out that one of your trainers wasn't training correctly because now we have the data. Is that one of those newer areas? Because being a large fleet, you've got to figure out, like, in the past, you just kind of trusted them to say Thomas was good when he came out of CDL school.
Yeah, well, I think first you have the responsibility to test any driver that comes in the door, whether they have 10 years experience on their resume or it's day one from a truck driving school, right? That's an approach that we take. We want to understand what that driver's capabilities are on day one. And then when they do get on the road, of course, we hire a lot of drivers that are brand new to the industry. We have a robust training program, and the cameras certainly help, right? And it can be both a management tool to make sure our trainers are holding up to our expectations, but it's also a tool for that trainer too, right? Yeah. Because the trainer could then go into the app and say, hey, driver, like, look at the events that we had. We had a close following event. Like, remember, we have to make sure we're having our 5 or 7 seconds of following time, right? Increase your following time here. And they can have those coaching sessions in the cab with another tool as well. And then really, as far as like a continuous coaching thing, making sure that you're engaging with that driver. I do think, you mentioned the AI coach. Yeah. We do a lot of conversations. I get a text message every day of how many drivers we've coached. And so I do think even if we say we do 350 or 400 conversations in that one day on drivers coaching for Motive events, you're still not going to touch 100% of drivers every single week, right? So what that does allow for you to do is the drivers who may only have one event, may only have, one close following, is still going to make sure that that's getting addressed. And it does get addressed with a verbal alert, but this is kind of that follow-on, hey, this is the event, we have to remember that conversation.
Because that was a big problem. I mean, when I managed drivers, oftentimes I didn't really talk with all of them during the course. I only talked to like a quarter of them half the time, depending upon your fleet and what they do. So having the AI, does it now give fleets the ability to, in some form, at least get the word out and start developing, versus in the past when I started in 2014, you were just totally reactive.
Yeah, I think one of the things, it's also important, it's not just when behaviors are seen that you want to improve on, right? I do think one of the greatest capabilities that it has is to reinforce the positive behavior. So when you do see, something good happen in a video, or the driver take the right reaction to an incident on the road, being able to also push that into that conversation, right? And whether that's an AI conversation, or it's, some kind of recognition in the app, or it's, their safety manager or driver manager reaching out to them and saying, hey, I saw that, this event happened and you had a great reaction to it. We really appreciate that. That goes a really long way as well in both establishing that rapport with the driver, and then also rewarding the driver for what you want to see.
So looking ahead, what's kind of the future when we're looking at safety? We've got all these tools being released. Tell us, what's the next steps? Is it more of let's deploy it and finally use it, or is there anything else that you're thinking across the horizon that opens up new ways of looking at this traditional job?
Yeah, I think, we're very fortunate that we have a pretty robust BI team that's way better with computers than I am, and they can build all these tools that make things easier for us to kind of get all of the information for the driver in one thing. But I do feel like that is something that's kind of the next step to not just tie safety in, but tie safety, fuel, dispatch, routing, right? All of the information that you can coach a driver on, or to make your business more efficient. If you're able to tie that into one place, have all the information in one place, and have that be, very accurate, high-level information, is going to be extremely helpful.
And, for folks who are interested in not only Western Express, but learning more information about what you all do, what's the best way to find out?
Yeah, so if you're a customer, please reach out. We'd love to haul your freight. But we have a website. You can easily just Google us, Western Express. It's going to be the very first trucking company that comes up. And there's all kinds of contact information depending on who you're trying to get in touch with.
Perfect. Man, really appreciate your time. Great getting to catch up again. And, we'll catch up again at the next Motive event, probably. Yeah. Vision26. Did they just add the year to it, I guess?
I think so. I think that's how it works.
That's a wrap for this episode, folks. If you're just joining us, we're on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. While you're at it, sign up for the Loaded and Rolling newsletter. It goes out Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm in Central Time right now. I don't even know what time it is at this point. Stay tuned, though, folks. We'll catch you next week. A lot more great content coming.